Day 2 of making sourdough starter from scratch. These are the steps that we are going to do today. If you watch the first part of this sourdough guide, you remember that on the first day, I only mixed flour and water and then let it sit overnight for about 24 hours. Although it took me a total of 4 days to get this starter going because I had the pink drama. If you haven't watched the video, go back to the part 1 because this problem might arise when you try to build sourdough starter. I'll put the link to the video in the description. Usually after 24 hours of fermentation, the starter from day 1 will rise and become smelly. But sometimes the starter doesn't rise at all, and I will tell you how to deal with it later on. Because my starter rose beautifully and even though it smells really terrible, I will continue on with the next step, which is feeding. Feeding just means you add water and flour to the starter dough. I will only get some of the starter out of the jar because I will not feed all of it. Because the starter and the food have to be proportional. So if I feed all of the starter, I will need more flour and water, which also means my starter will multiply very quickly. In this video, I only use 20 grams starter from day 1, and then I add 20 grams bread flour and 20 grams water. This will produce 100% hydration starter, that is sourdough starter that contains 1 part water and 1 part flour. Leftover starter, that is commonly called sourdough discard, can be collected and kept in the refrigerator or thrown away. This time I'll just toss mine in the garbage can because it's really pungent. In the past, I used to collect the sourdough discard from day 1 and it was fine. However, some people suggest that you should not eat the starter from the early stage of sourdough building because it's still mostly inhabited by spoilage bacteria that might not be good for your health. The feeding steps are similar to what we did on day 1. We just mix flour and water. The difference is now the mixture is seeded with starter from day 1. Sometimes, like I said before, the starter from day 1 doesn't rise even after 24 hours of fermentation. If that's the case, then you can skip these feeding steps on day 2. You can just stir the starter from day 1 and then let it sit for another 24 hours. If it does rise after the 24 hours of fermentation, then you can start doing feeding. If it still won't rise, then just stir and let it rest again until it is able to do so. I'm done stirring the starter, flour and water until all the flour is wet, and then I put this new starter in a clean container as usual, and then I smooth out the surface. In the first 2 or 3 days of starter building, we do not need to do more than 1 feeding in 1 day because we don't want to dilute the acid that is building in the starter. We want the starter to be sour or acidic as soon as possible so that the wild yeast and the lactobacilli can start growing. I let the starter from day 2 ferment at warm temperature again between 28 to 30 degrees Celsius or 82 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And after 24 hours, it seems that my starter doesn't rise that much. Very minimal. You can even see some water or liquid that is separated from the flour. This is normal for day 3 because the starter is entering a transition period from being inhabited by spoilage bacteria to being sour or acidic. After that, wild yeast and lactobacilli will start flourishing. This transition period can last up to a few weeks. It depends on many things, including nutrient and temperature. But some people are lucky to only have this transition period for one day. During this period, please only feed the starter once a day. Do it until the starter is able to rise. When that happens, it means the wild yeast and the lactobacilli start to grow. I will discuss the subsequent steps in the next part.